What the hell was that all about?
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
There are some really stupid teams out there, guys. When you talk about Howie Roseman, this man does not get fleeced. When you look at certain trades that happen to trade deadline, these teams are always looking to fleece you in these situations. Now, the Carolina Panthers are a totally different team that's really kind of rebuilding, clean slate, kind of moving on from everybody, okay? Because right now, Christian McCaffrey, the other day, Christian McCaffrey got traded, okay? This was like, I had no interest in him. I mean, there was rumors that the Eagles may have wanted to go after him, but after seeing this trade go down, I mean, you gave up 3 picks for next year's draft, a second, a third, and a fourth, and then a 5th-round pick for 2024. They gave up 3 picks, not to mention the first-round pick that they gave up for, I think, moving up for Trey Lance. I think that's the pick they don't have for next year because they moved up in the draft. So you gave away your future for a running back that has not had a 1,000-yard season since 2019. That is somewhat healthy this year, okay? I heard he had an injury a couple games ago. I thought he had a little injury, nothing crazy, but he's still playing. But how do you do this? I mean, look, Trey Lance was going to be your starting quarterback, your franchise quarterback. Jimmy, he gets hurt. Jimmy Garoppolo comes right in there and plays well, okay? Because obviously the coaches they know how to use Jimmy a lot better because obviously he's been in that offense. Maybe Trey Lance is just struggling that much. But I mean, I hate to see injuries. There's no doubt about it, especially when you spend a 1st-round pick on a quarterback. It sucks, but damn, I mean, would the Eagles actually give up picks like this for a player? I mean, could this actually happen? I just don't see it. Look, if the Eagles don't make any type of move on the trade deadline by week 9, I am totally fine with it because if teams are asking for too much, just look at some of these receivers, like some of the players that they're definitely going to ask a lot for. McCaffrey apparently was one of them. I didn't think it was going to be that much, but holy crap, the 49ers just gave up their next draft next year, pretty much, and then a 5th rounder for 24. They gave up their entire draft, pretty much. And now it's like they have to compete this year now. They have to actually compete. That's what I kind of get out of it. And that's why I kind of think of, if I really want Brian Burns that badly, am I going to go out and get him and be very aggressive and just, this is where you have to be careful now, because as much as I want Brian Burns from the Carolina Panthers, that should be a build-around piece for them because he's still 24 years old and a very, very good player with, 54 games, 29.5 sacks, 7 forced fumbles, 2nd in pressures, right behind Nick Bosa this year. Brian Burns is a great player, but there's no way I'm giving like a 1st and a 2nd and a 3rd for him or some stupid crap like that. Because if that's the case, I am willing to I'm willing to sign more depth than sign a starter this year. I'm willing to go without a defensive end by the trade deadline if this is what it's going to cost for players, especially from this team, because I can't blame the Panthers. I can't blame them because they need picks. I mean, that's just the way it is. So they get a crap ton of picks. They take pretty much 3/4 of the 49ers draft next year and an extra in a 5th rounder for 24. So Panthers did a good job with that trade. Christian McCaffrey, though, come on now. I mean, that's just for a running. This is for a running back. Like I said, it's not really about like the guy hasn't had 1,000 yards in a few years, but it's just like the guy is just never healthy. Like, you put that many picks, you trade that many picks away, like, that's a big question mark for me to say, like, if the Eagles made a move like this, that would really suck. But I know the Eagles are smarter than this. And look, if they go to another team for another player, it's a different story. Like a Robert Quinn trade probably won't be as much, definitely not. Or something, because you go for something like this, you give away all those picks. And this is, like I said, it's for a running back. Like, that's it. Like, that's all it's for. It's for one running back. And like you gave up, I don't know how a team gives up their whole entire draft. Obviously, you got your quarterback. He got injured. Garoppolo goes in, and you give up the rest of your draft next year. I mean, then you must be going on a run. They must be thinking that they can compete this year, and that's great. But can they do it? Can McCaffrey stay healthy? Obviously, it's not our problem because he's with the 49ers, but this is just an example of teams getting fleeced by the trade deadline and teams getting pressured to make a move. I'm not saying the 49ers were pressured, but, you know, obviously the 49ers have some injuries. They're waiting for some players to come back, which will definitely help them out. But I'm staying away from giving away that. And look, this is the price you pay for it. And Howie Roseman has to sit there and think, okay, well, the example is if I get a premier player and give away a first and a second round pick this year, obviously this guy's not going to be a rental after this year. He's going to be a long-term answer. So if you say, like I said before, if you get a Brian Burns and you give up a couple picks, let's say you give up like a first and a second round pick, you know, then you got to figure out like, yeah, he's going to be our long-term answer. You're not going to go into the draft and get Will Anderson. You're not, because you need to see where your draft picks are at too and what draft picks you're going to trade, because our pick is obviously, the highest of the draft right now. Dead last right now. So, I mean, this pick is going to be far from top 10. And then the Saints pick is looking pretty good right now. But how much are we going to put into that pick going forward? Because it's a tough schedule for the Saints, but at the same time, they've gotten a couple wins. They should have been 0-4. They should have been at least 0-4 at one point, 0-3 at one point. Especially that Falcons game they had, the first game, which definitely kind of screwed us, but they've lost the past couple times already. So it's been a roller coaster ride with that pick, and I don't want to designate so much to that pick to where that pick controls our draft. I don't want that to happen. I want Howie Roseman to take into consideration with the players that he has right now. To be honest with you, if the Eagles don't contend this year, Howie Roseman can put us in a bind if he really wants us to, okay? If he wants to put this roster in a bind, he wants to re-sign everybody, and he's going to make sure every player is locked up to contend next year if we don't contend this year, okay? Then I can fully understand, like, yeah, we'll probably be a lot of money over the cap. We'll have to restructure down contracts later on to free up cap space. That's just the way it's going to be. But if the Eagles want to lock up a lot of players, like if they're choosing between TJ Edwards and Kaiser White, then yeah, he could sign both of them. If you want to sign Bradbury, he could sign him. Epson, Garner Johnson, he wants to sign him, they can get it done, but you're going to pay a hefty price on top of a quarterback that's going to designate what moves you can or cannot do, because we still haven't signed our quarterback yet. And usually when you sign these quarterbacks to big money, God knows how much Jalen Hurts is going to get. The better he does, the further he gets, the further this team gets, the more guaranteed it's going to be. Okay? That's what I'm afraid of. But that's just the business. So I know there's fans out there like, oh, well, he might take a pay cut. Let me tell you, like, this is your second contract. The second contract is the most important contract after your rookie deal, this is where you get your riches from. This second contract is the most important. So with all this stuff included of what the 49ers did in that trade they made with the Panthers, that was just the Panthers fleeced the 49ers in that trade. There's no doubt. I'm not saying, look, I'm not saying that McCaffrey can't do anything good down the road. I'm not saying that he's not going to be a good player, but his health is a major concern, and you gave up the rest of your draft next year for one guy. That is still a big question mark on how he is going to play in the future. I wouldn't trust it. I really wouldn't. But there's no doubt in my mind that there's a lot of players that are available when it comes to wide receiver. Elijah Moore, There's so many players asking for trades now, and I'm telling you right now that like the trade deadline is going to be expensive, depending on who you get. I would rather have, if the Eagles can't get a premier pass rusher or something like that, okay, I would rather them go after a depth player or a specialist or something to to kind of fill in a weakness that we have. I would rather let them go get a number 3 safety than keep Kevon Wallace on the roster. I'd rather get a punt returner, or at least, if you want to keep Britton Covey on kick returns, then get a punt returner or somebody. Like I said, I've mentioned Marquez Callaway. I've mentioned guys like that, like underrated depth signing moves, because Howie Roseman's really good at those depth signings. I think the depth is really important. They can go out and get an offensive lineman. They can go get a guy from a practice squad, that has starting experience, that could, play multiple positions. There's a bunch of different things that they could do. And if we don't get Brian Burns, or we don't get, we don't trade for Brian Burns, or we don't trade for Robert Quinn, this is why they're going after Robert Quinn too, because he's definitely going to be a lot cheaper, because he's older, but he produces very well. Okay, but Brian Burns is far younger, and it's going to cost a lot more. So the Eagles might actually stay away from it. There hasn't been any rumors about the Eagles staying away from that trade or anything like that, but they are exploring their options right now, which I'm very happy about. Totally fine. Have to explore your options. You can't just go all in on one player. You got to do your homework around the league, see who's available. And if Robert Quinn's available at an older age and still producing very well, I am totally fine with a 1-year rental this year. You know what I mean? Like, Jay Ajayi was a 4th-round pick in 2017. It was a luxury player that we got. We just added luxury to that running back room. But it turned out that was a little bit long term. It was a little bit longer than what it was supposed to be. And and when time was, Father Time was calling his name, and that was it. You know what I mean? So it's just to a point now where I'm kind of sitting here and, like, I am totally fine that the Eagles, and I'll say it for the millionth time in this video, I will be satisfied if they don't go after any starter. I will be sad. I don't care, because I don't want it to ruin our draft next year, our picks for 2024. I'm not giving away picks like that, like this. You know what I mean? Like, you're talking about Christian. You gave up 3/4 of your draft for a running back. Like, this isn't trading for, I'm just going to just say something random. This isn't like DJ Moore. Like, he's going to be expensive. Elijah Moore going to be expensive. Like, trading for guys like that, okay, I can see you giving away some picks. But trading for a running back like this, I'm not saying Christian McCaffrey's a bad player, but that is just, how do you get so desperate to give away picks like that? Like, if we did that, I'd be pissed. I'd be so freaking pissed off right now. Thank God Howie Roseman's got his head on his shoulders. Thank God the past 2 off seasons have been the best off seasons I have ever seen with this team. But it is just going downhill for a lot of teams, getting desperate. Like I said, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't want to make this any longer than what it is, but it's just come to a point now where I'm like, if they're asking for too much, stay the hell away from it. I do not care. Go get depth at certain positions that are weaknesses. Go get a specialist for kick return or punt return, whatever you want to do. Either use that player for both kick return, punt return, use Covey for just kick return and get a punt returner. Go get a number 3 safety. Go get a rotational defensive end, or somebody that's not going to be expensive that the Eagles could, maybe, I don't know, work out or something. I mean, something. I don't even care what it is. But if this is what it's going to cost, which it probably will, because obviously when the Eagles trade with the Saints this past offseason, what they did, I mean, what we've done to the Saints is just ridiculous. Okay, not only you're taking their picks, you're making crazy trades, but at the same time, you're taking C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And now you have their 1st-round pick, and we're got to see how the rest of what the Saints do this year. So I kind of just wanted to go into the mold on, I wanted to see how you guys felt about this trade for Christian McCaffrey with the 49ers did and the picks they gave away. Already moved up for Trey Lance. I already lost a 1st-round pick for next year. And now losing a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 4th for next year's draft on top of it, and a 5th for 2024. I mean, that's crazy. That's just crazy. I'm just saying, just stay away from these trades. This is what it's going to turn into. It's going to be it's fleecing season. This is what the trade deadline is all about when it comes to starters, caliber, marquee names. And I'm not saying that McCaffrey's not a marquee name, but you gave away too much to think that there's a lot of question marks, a lot of unknowns about McCaffrey and what's going to happen with his future, his health. there's way too much involved with him as a player. The teams that should have waited out, and maybe they would have just, I mean, they weren't going to flat out release him, but I mean, the more time that goes by, who knows what would have happened by the last week of the trade deadline, week 9 or something. But Eagles are exploring their options, and that's great, and I'm happy about that, because you don't want to put all your eggs into one basket on one player that they need so bad and just throw the picks, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, even if Howie Roseman is saying to himself, okay, the Eagles, I think we can contend this year. We have a really good team. We just need that piece. Like, you know, Derek Barnett has an ACL. Patrick Johnson's kind of been taking that spot right now. And I'm looking at defensive end a lot right now, because I think this defensive line needs a little bit of help, but you know, explore your options. You know, you're looking at a young player, and take a shot. As long as he takes a shot to see what it's going to cost, I don't care. We'll probably find out that news. But looking at Robert Quinn, it's a whole different story, because the Bears are on a rebuild mode. But at the same time, you know, they're not trying to get the highest pick possible and then trying to literally outfleece some other team, which they'll try to do it because it's just normal. But because you have a team in the Panthers that are just literally trying to, it's a fire sale. I mean, they are just cleaning house right now. So kind of crazy. But just wanted to kind of talk about that. I know it's a long video, so if you have made it this far, I do appreciate it. And we will see you on the next one. Howie Roseman make good decisions for this trade deadline. All right. See you guys later. Shake Squad up. Follow us. Peace out, guys. Peace.